ladies and gentlemen, as the message says in the chat, this situation is called the BAFTA Tourette situation. Okay, if you do not know what BAFTA is, I didn't know what it is at first either. It's been all over the media the past 24 hours. BAFTA stands for British Academy, I believe, for Film, Television, and Arts. I believe that's what it stands for. And basically, two black known actors were presenting an award, and there was someone in the crowd, another actor in the crowd who has Tourette's, that said the hard R. And basically, a lot of people are speculating some things about it. People have mixed opinions about it. There's a lot of parties involved. I do not know how Tourette's work. I have seen people with Tourette's. I tried to study up a little bit on it just to have some basic understanding of what Tourette's is and how it triggers and what causes it, things like that. But I am not an expert, and I am not going to argue with anyone who may or may not know what Tourette's is. I am just an opinionated person, just like we all have opinions in here. Okay, so let's just watch the video. Let's just see what we got going on. And also, yes, this not only happened to them, it also happened to other people at the awards, which I found out last night.
In a clip that went viral from the British Academy Film Awards, or BAFTAs, a man in the audience can be heard yelling a racial slur as Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo presented on stage. The man shouting was John Davidson. He has Tourette syndrome and was there because a film based on his life was being honored. Earlier that night, he told CNN he was worried about exactly this.
Certain things like today, lots of people around, I'm feeling very, water tips in case I lash out or whatever, so different situations can trigger different emotions and different tics and stuff.
Tourette can involve involuntary motor and vocal tics. In some cases, that includes sudden swearing or shouting, words the person does not intend to say and cannot control. Not everyone with Tourette syndrome has this type of tic. Only about 10% of people with the condition experience involuntary swearing. In Davidson's case, the film about his life shows that his tics can manifest as intrusive, offensive phrases said without intent. The BAFTA audience was warned that involuntary swearing could occur. And after it happened, host Alan Cumming asked for understanding.
Tourette syndrome is a disability, and the tics you've heard tonight are involuntary, which means the person who has Tourette syndrome has no control over their language. We apologise if you were offended.
Davidson is the subject of the indie film I Swear and served as an executive producer. It grossed about $8 million at the UK box office and is set for release in the US in April. That night, the actor who portrayed him, Robert Aramayo, won the BAFTA.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it real quick. Respectfully, I'm trying to hear it. All words, and you say the hard R, please. See, that's why I'm gonna wait until I say my opinion on, because I want to see what else was said in this video, and I'm gonna wait.
For Best Actor.
I never thought that I would end up with anything, or we just all hoped that people would watch the film, and that it would lead to a really interesting conversation about Tourette's, and so to get this kind of recognition is just unbelievable.
For decades, Davidson has worked to raise awareness about Tourette syndrome and supported children and adults with the condition. The moment at the BAFTAs raises difficult questions. Jamie Foxx reacted to a post on Instagram calling...
Bro, Jamie's response, people were talking about Jamie's response, bro. Out of all the words you could have said, Tourette's made you say that? No, he meant that.
The moment unacceptable. Journalist Jamal Hill wrote that the focus should have been on the actors impacted. A View actor Wendell Pierce echoed, saying apologies to Lindo and Jordan should have come first. In a statement issued to CNN, Emma McNally, the CEO of Tourette's Action, said, "We deeply understand that these words can cause hurt, but at the same time, it is vital that the public understands a fundamental truth about Tourette syndrome. Tics are involuntary. They are not a reflection of a person's beliefs, intentions, or character." Davidson also sent CNN a statement, part of which said, "I can only add that I am and always have been deeply mortified if anyone considers my involuntary tics to be intentional or to carry any meaning. I have spent my life trying to support and empower the Tourette's community and to teach empathy, kindness, and understanding from others, and I will continue to do so. I chose to leave the auditorium early into the ceremony as I was aware of the distress my tics were causing." The BBC, which airs the BAFTAs, sent a statement making an apology when contacted by CNN, but did not comment on why the moment was not cut or bleeped on television. Some viewers may have heard strong and offensive language during the BAFTA Film Awards 2026. This arose from involuntary verbal tics associated with Tourette syndrome and was not intentional. We apologize for any offense caused by the language heard.
Okay, here is my thing. Now, and we got another video too, because this is not the only time that happened. This happened multiple times throughout the ceremony with him. Couple of things people are bringing up is that, one, yes, BBC did not cut that part out. Why? And they did not comment on it when it was asked. Why didn't they cut it out? I don't know. That's a little suspicious, to be honest, actually. Like, you didn't cut that part out, but you had all the time to do it, but you cut out the other phrase, Free Palestine. I don't know. Number two, there was not an apology given to Michael B. Jordan. And the other actor, I'm sorry, I forgot the other actor's name. I know they both play in Sinners, and I know that's why they were up there, because the Sinners crew, the Sinners cast was up there. And there was not an apology given to them right away for being involved in that unexpected situation. There was an apology being involved with the people watching at home, to the audience, things like that. And they said, and then people were picking over the apology, saying like, well, if you were offended. You know, I can't say how people need to word their stuff. Well, I will say it should have been worded better. I don't know if they had to say that on the spot. You know, maybe he didn't have time. I don't know. But you all knew that this was a condition. It's a condition. And okay. And I'm not also trying to say, because I know there were people online saying, well, maybe he just shouldn't been invited. I don't think that would have helped anything, because now you're showing discrimination towards people with with disabilities. Okay. I feel like just because you have a disability does not mean you shouldn't be invited. Like, you should be invited. Okay. Like John said, everything except an apology. That's another thing. They were saying that John Davidson, you know, made his remarks on the situation, but did not come out and actually give an apology to the actors when that situation occurred. So, and we haven't heard anything back. So people were like making examples of like, okay, so if I was on a walker, I'm not going to use a walker. People were saying if I was in a wheelchair and I roll over your foot, I can just roll over your foot because I'm in a wheelchair. Like, I'm hurt, you know, it is what it is. Just because I'm in a wheelchair doesn't give me the reason to not apologize. You know, you have this condition, and he did say ahead of time that this is something that he was afraid that would happen. I don't know how the condition works. I don't know why that word is a part of his tics, and why is it a part of the vocabulary in his tics. I don't know. To be honest, I think it was good of him to see himself out when he noticed he was disturbing people during that moment. Personally, I feel like if I knew my condition could cause others discomfort and issues, I would sit myself next to the door so I could leave if I need to. Tics also happen based on what you hear often, so maybe that's a reason why it's in his vocabulary. Yeah, because I'm just like, I never heard a tic in that way. The only tics I have seen, I've seen people, you know, flick people off. I've seen people, you know, say F you and stuff like that. I've seen those tics. What's crazy is that they had to give a warning before this show about random sounds in the audience. And see, they knew about it ahead of time. So it's like, on one end, you don't want to show discrimination towards people who have this, you know, this condition. But also, if you know that this is going to be something that may seem bothersome to other people, you know, I don't even know how would you go about that at a huge event like that. How would you go about that? You don't want to show discrimination towards people who have the condition, but also you don't want your audience to be, you know, like rude about it or complain about it, stuff like that. I'm still just baffled that BBC didn't censor it. Like, it's the least you could do. Yeah, like, I'm like, it's delayed. Why? I feel, okay, here's my theory. My theory on it is that they left it in there because this is gonna sound crazy. This is gonna sound a little crazy. I feel like they left it in there to show an example as to why Tourette's needs to, like, this is just an example. Now, I hope that's not the reason. This is just a theory, but I feel like they left it in there as an example to be like, hey, you know, this is somebody in the audience with Tourette's, and they said this slur and things like that. And we should just leave it in there. This is a TV theory. Because I can't excuse BBC for not cutting it out. Yeah, it's not the guy's fault who said it, but they could have censored it. Yeah, but it's like, it's nice to know the guy who did it left when he realized it was bad. And that's the thing. It's like, at least he took some accountability into leaving, because he knew that what he did was wrong and he left early. It is what it is. Now, the apology. I don't know if he had put an apology out there to Michael B. Jordan and the other actor specifically. I don't know. But also, like I said, y'all, this is not the only time that did happen tonight. Well, not tonight, but that is not the only time that actually happened during the event of the BAFTAs. That didn't happen. It happened to another black woman. I think it actually happened to two other black women during that night. You know what? Yeah, okay, wait. Before let me rebuttal on Jazzy's statement. That's the thing too. Okay? We hear this word as part of the black community. We hear this word and it's like, when is enough enough? Okay, when is enough enough? We hear it and we just supposed to be like, "Oh, it's fine." And I applaud both of the actors for taking it very professionally. Up there, live in front of an audience, live in front of the TV, like live in front of, in front of everybody watching this at home, in front of the real life audience right there. I applaud them for taking it professionally. But how do you think they felt knowing that, like, this is aired? This is like, oh, okay. And maybe, like, they probably still have not received the apology for that. Personally, one-on-one to them specifically. It's hard. It is a really hard situation because it's like, you never know when you're going to mess with the wrong person. So it's like, how do we go about this situation, or how do we go about any future situation when it comes to people saying that word?
Done talking about this for the night, but this situation has gotten so much worse. Hannah Beachler, who's the production designer on Sinners, who was at the BAFTAs tonight, has confirmed that the incident regarding the slur with John Davidson was not the only occurrence. She posted this thread onto Twitter. "I keep trying to write about what happened at the BAFTAs and I can't find the words. The situation is almost impossible, but it happened 3 times that night, and one of the 3 times was directed at myself on the way to dinner after the show. And a 3rd time at a black woman. I understand and deeply know why this is an impossible situation. I know we must handle this with grace and continue to push through, but what made the situation worse was the throwaway apology of if you were offended at the end of the show. Of course we're offended, but our frequency and our spiritual vibration is tuned to a higher level than what happened. I am not steel. This did not bounce off me, but I exist above it. It can't take away from who I am as an artist." I genuinely hate this for the entire Sinners team. The fact that they were subjected to this on and off camera is just abhorrent, and the BAFTAs need to post a public apology, as well as John Davidson, because you have half of the internet and damn near the whole country of Europe, because you have half the internet and damn near the whole UK calling black people ableist for not being okay with racism. The fact that this happened multiple times to the black people of this film is not okay, and I don't want to hear any excuses.
Like I said, I don't have much to say on the whole thing. It is hard. Like she said, it's like, okay, I understand it's a condition, but that didn't just bounce off me as like it doesn't affect me. It's sad that it happened to a majority or the whole team of Sinners, the whole cast, especially in different ways and multiple times throughout the night. And this situation is probably going to continue to occur until something else happens, or it's just going to vanish away in the field of media. So, I don't know. I'm hoping and praying that BBC can come to their senses and stand up on why they didn't cut that out. And also stand up on the fact that you cut out, Free Palestine, but you ain't giving a reason for that either. I feel like it has layers to it. BBC is like the peak. BBC is the peak. But at the same time, y'all, let's be real. At the same time, you can cut something out, okay? You can cut something out, and people probably will never know what was said. But even if you bleeped it out during the showcase, during the filming of it, if you bleeped it out, people on the internet will still be curious as to what was said at the BAFTAs. Say if you cut it out and it's not even aired. That part was not aired. Somebody on social media will probably say something about it. Who knows? Maybe somebody might have been recording that moment on their phone. Something would have still went out there on social media, even if it was fully cut out. Number two, like I said, if it was bleeped out, people would get curious and suspicious as to what was said at the BAFTAs during that moment. And number three, it still would have happened, regardless of the other two options, because it happened even before they was on stage with the woman of Sinners, with the fashion designer of Sinners. The only way this situation would have been avoidable if John Davidson was not there in attendance at the BAFTAs. That's the only possible way. But then that would bring up the issue being, BAFTAs are being discriminating, people who have conditions and disabilities because John Davidson wasn't there to promote his movie that speaks about Tourette's. There's too many paths that would have just peaked in social media. And the other reason that couldn't have been avoided if that was not in his vocabulary. How is it in his vocabulary? Why is it a tick of his? I can't speak on that. So if they bleeped it out, damage control would have been a little better. Yeah, it would have been a little better, I guess. But also they would have still had to apologize. They probably still would have to put an apology out there. It probably would have been awkward if they didn't put an apology out there after it being bleeped, if they bleeped it. And then it might have gotten more attention and blamed for trying to hide it. Exactly. As a Black person, I'm going to say this, okay? I don't know how much grace the Black community or any Black person being called that is going to give to the point where something's going to break out, okay? Yes, the word has origin. And in the past, I did say that, we give this word too much power and too much control over our lives. And, sometimes it really can trick somebody. It really can flick somebody off. Somebody will get heated. Okay? Now, I don't know, how they felt. I'm not saying that what they feeling are wrong. I can't say what the Black community is feeling is wrong because the way this whole situation turned out should have been handled way better. Okay? I honestly blame BBC as a whole, to be honest with you. I blame BBC as a whole for even airing it that way. I blame them as a whole because you had 2 hours. You had 2 hours to get this cut and edit. Because I know you don't got no little wicked do boo-boo team of production. I know y'all don't got no good 52 Cent team working on this, okay? Y'all got money. Y'all got a great production team. But at this point, your team ain't looking that good for you to keep that in there. And I'm going to say that. Okay, I don't know. BAFTAs aren't looking too hot either. Because, first of all, you're connected with BBC. You as, your reputation is not going to look good because of this situation. Okay? Now, the Black community, feel the way you feel. Because, how much grace is going to be left in us to just pass by the word and just be like, everything's fine and dandy. People have feelings, and these things, certain things like that are not just gonna bounce off us like, whoop-de-doo. Especially if we're trying to celebrate, first of all, it was achievements too. This is just did you see their expressions when that was said? They had to keep it together. They had to keep them composure together. And I applaud them for that. Being in the face of the camera, in the face of a live audience, I applaud them for that. Please correct me if I'm wrong, people who have this condition. This also looks like this is making the community seem very it's a mix. Because I can't speak on it, okay? And I know there's people who have this condition. This is making the condition look as we can get away with stuff like this now. But and like I said, some people are defending him on this. Okay? Some people are defending him on this because he's like, he don't have to apologize for that. I think it would be right to apologize. Now, I understand you probably have been apologizing for your whole entire life for what you said. I can see that point of view, okay? You're dealing with this ever since your whole life. You probably have been apologizing to everybody every time you say something. I understand it's the hard truth. But an apology is just nice and not a fake apology. And maybe even telling the people that, yes, I have Tourette's. I apologize in advance if I say something wrong. BBC should have handled it better overall. BAFTA should have handled it better overall. I'm hoping John Davidson actually puts out a real apology to the actors and even to BAFTAs. It is what it is. He put out a statement, but it wasn't an apology statement. It was just a statement on how he felt, and he left. Good on his behalf that he left. But an apology will not hurt. That's my ending. That's my statement. Okay. But yeah, honestly, that's my say on it. That's my say on it. Thank y'all for educating me. For those who spread some information about Tourette's, thank you for educating me a bit. Thank you for being respectful and participating in the conversation. Yes. And thank y'all, because like I said, I feel like I'm becoming more and more open to having these type of conversations. I'm glad we had this talk. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I'm gonna make a YouTube video out of it. I might make a YouTube video out of it. We will see. Because I've been making YouTube videos back and back. Y'all better go follow the YouTube. Go subscribe.